Carl, winemakers around the country are really struggling because of the high dollar and the effect on their exports. How are you managing this?
Our exports are very minimal in comparison to what we sell domestically. So for us, the exposure isn't as great as what a number of the larger companies are. Our exports are into Japan, mainly in Japan. It's through a company or the majority of the wine that's sold is through a company who owns a lot of restaurants. So to a certain extent, we're not so exposed to what, if you were just selling to individual restaurants and individual bars, I think you'd probably find it quite hard.
How did you get that relationship?
Well, they sourced us initially. They were the importer. Was having our wine in Sydney at Icebergs, and he liked it. They made an inquiry, and then I spoke with them and sort of built up a relationship over the last 4 or 5 years through going to Japan, do a bit of skiing, so it always timed in nicely. They would travel to us, meet us and at the winery, and so basically just forged a
great deal of family wineries in Australia are having difficulty getting into restaurants, and it's very, very competitive. How do you get into the restaurants? How do you manage that?
Domestically, in each state we have a different wholesaler, and then they employ a number of salespeople, and they go out and sell direct. We sell direct into regional Victoria, into bottle shops and restaurants, and then, I suppose it's through tastings and, regular meetings and showing your face and, hopefully producing some good wines that these, restaurants want to sell.
How do you differentiate your wines?
Our wines are differentiated mainly through being Italian-based. My dad's Italian, and he planted Italian varieties a number of years ago, and namely Sangiovese, Nebbiolo, Pinot Grigio. So the interest has grown basically through people travelling and finding out about the Italian varieties.
But the key was to have different grapes to the conventional winemakers in Australia.
It certainly helps. Yeah, if you're competing with, say with Shiraz and Cabernet and Chardonnay, you're up against a lot of different wineries producing those varieties. Whereas, as far as the Italian varieties go, there aren't the number of producers making them. So the competition's not as fierce, although it's you are competing against a large number of imports now, with the dollar being the way that it is.
Where do the imports come from that compete with you?
Italian imports. So if we're producing Sangiovese, then Chianti, Nebbiolo, Barolo, Barbarescos, all coming out of Italy. And with the dollar the way that it is, you can purchase an imported Sangiovese at comparable prices at comparable quality. So it does make it quite tough when the dollar is the way that it is.
Is it affecting your business?
Look, it maybe in certain varieties it probably has and will affect. I think wine consumption of imported products is increasing. So although the effect is probably not as large at the moment, it probably will be, potentially be a problem in the future.
Do you deal with the big supermarkets?
Yeah, we do. Yep.
And how do you find them to deal with?
It's interesting. Look, our wholesalers do a lot of the work dealing with them. In saying that, you've got to manage the relationship. I think it's important to have a good distribution and not focusing all of your eggs in the one basket. So
you keep pushing the price down.
They do, they do, and sometimes it's they do it off their own bat, and you don't know that they're going to do it. Yeah, and they do it, and it does affect how your customers perceive you in some cases, because they can buy it cheaper through some of these larger chains than what they can buy it through your winery. So it sometimes they get a bit frustrated.
That would make me very cross.
Yes, yeah, it does. So then we have to then mend that relationship. But
you cut your price at the winery.
No, you try not to. No, you've got to, you've set a price, and I can't tell, if you're a big chain, I can't tell you what to sell it for. They do these deals and then they raise the price back up again. But it's up to you to manage your stock so that you're not left in a position where you need to, sort of do these deals to move excess wine.
And until now, you've had a very strong position in one variety or varieties. Now with the imported wines, it must be tougher.
Well, yeah, it will be. It will be. I think with the varieties that we do have a large selection of wines in our portfolio, and different wines work better in different states, and every state is different. So that also helps to spread the risk of, competing, I suppose, against...
How do you select and manage your wholesalers?
You've got to find, I suppose, wholesalers that, sort of match what you're trying to do. You've got to have products which don't compete with too many other products in their portfolio. But, it's up to them to really manage their portfolio of products as well. So you try and find someone who you're comfortable doing business with, really. We have a very good relationship with our wholesalers, and it's nice to be friends with the people that you're doing business with.
Now, in your winery, the second generation are almost all in the winery, is that right, in the wine business?
Correct, yes. Mum and dad, brother Joel, sister Natalie, and myself, a brother-in-law. My now fiancée is moved back into the business.
Is it big enough to support you all?
Yeah, it is. It is. We're fortunate enough to all study various or different degrees, and we've slotted ourselves in different positions. And the business is large enough to sustain it, although there's a lot more potential, I think, that we can realise. We're at a size where we could probably, or the skills that we've got, we could probably operate a lot better.
The Brown family, which are neighbours of yours, had a system where the children had to work outside first and then come into the business.
Yes.
Do you have that?
No, we don't. Not at this stage. It's the Browns has been going for a long time, and they're fortunate to be in a position where they were able to do that. When I finished studying, I didn't intend to work in the family business straight away, but it just so happened that the company, I felt, needed the skills that I could bring into the business. So we were at a particular stage where the company had grown, and it needed some work on, I suppose, the systems and the structures within that business to help it more effectively operate.
Who sorts out the fights? When you have a dispute, the mum and dad say, you're right and you're wrong.
Look, quite often the fight might be with me or dad, or my sister and dad, or my brother and mum. Look, generally, once everyone gets their point across, we all come out in the end a little bit battered and bruised, but it sorts itself out. I've got a sister who's a psychologist, so she quietly, helps us out in our, quiet time. But fortunately enough, we all get along quite well, and we don't have too many major dramas.
There you go.